really fortifies the idea that Islam is at least a form of idolatry. Perhaps not the form that Halal would consider punishable by death. But really, I'm just here to show you that this idea that Islam is idolatry is not a new radical idea, but actually what most poskim held at the time of the Rambam. And the Rambam was actually considered a dat yachid, a lone voice in this argument. Even though
referring to Rambam as a dat yachid is like calling Immanuel Kant or Aristotle a dat yachid in philosophy. As I pointed out, there are people who disagree with him, but Rambam's superb scholarship makes him a mountain compared to molehills. Once Rambam went onto the stage, Jews gave him the mantle, and he must be dealt with for any and every subject matter relating to Jewish thought. It is also incorrect to call him a dat yachid, because there were many other rabbis who knew Islam was a faith based on pure monotheism. You could simply look at the Gaonim. Rambam refuted those rabbis who said otherwise, and to this day no important rabbi in history has denied Rambam on this issue.
One embraced Islam. Now, there is a distinction that I will make in this lecture between what the Rambam codified from Chazal and his personal opinion, because the two are not always the same, which only just strengthens this lecture.
Is it possible to make a distinction between Rambam and Chazal with Rambam's works? That's the million-dollar question. Meza is trying to show that you can read through Rambam's work, the Mishnah Torah, and separate Chazal from Rambam's own opinion. To clarify, by Chazal, Meza was referring to the conclusions of the arguments made by the sages of the Talmud concerning what Jewish law is. Is it possible to open up the Mishnah Torah and separate Rambam from the Talmud or the decisions made therein? There are a number of problems with this approach. If you watch his videos, Meza believes that Rambam was a near-infallible scholar whose Mishnah Torah provides 100% correct information on the conclusions of the Great Sanhedrin, assumingly according to Orthodoxy. That is a position in Judaism that the Orthodox world does not take. Meza assumes that separating Rambam from Chazal is simply a matter of separating opinion from those conclusions in the Gemara. Rambam certainly did have his own opinions not shared by Chazal, but he also has his own assumptions, unique way of thinking, and coming to conclusions that was not shared by the Chazal as well. Allow me to digress for a moment to make a point to people new to Jewish subjects. The Talmud is not an easy document to read. It is difficult to read rabbinical debates and understand what the conclusions are. These arguments are about the most minute legal details and the most boring subject matter on the planet Earth. The Rambam studied the Gemara with his teachers and used his own personal reasoning to come up with conclusions. Other rabbis came up with different conclusions about what the law is on A, B, or C. That is why Jewish law today incorporates the Rambam as well as other sages. A student at a Talmudic academy is expected to learn the positions of different rabbis on a particular subject, Rambam being one of them. Separating Rambam from Chazal is like separating the milk from the meat dishes at a Reform rabbi's home, almost impossible and a wasteful effort in the light of modern Judaic scholarship. Orthodoxy holds the Rambam in high regard. His scholarship has always taken primacy. Even if his conclusions differ from the majority, they are still considered holy because they came from him. So Rambam is giving the first word but not the last word on a subject. If Meza wanted to strengthen his lecture, he could have done so very easily. All he needed to do was provide primary sources on Islam, being the Quran and Hadith, and put them side by side with Jewish law on Avodah Zarah to prove that Islam has idolatry in it according to what he believes.
To their beliefs. But yes, I do believe that it was because of outside pressure that the Rambam ultimately decided the way he did. Mainly because by publicly declaring the Islamic faith as idolatrous, he would have been not only putting his own life at risk, but the lives of every one of his followers.
Was Rambam hiding his true views on Islam by giving in to outside pressure? In reality, the only thing that seems to be hiding in this video is a good use of intelligence. I have failed to find any. If the Rambam really held Islam to be Avodah Zarah, then Rambam was being dishonest in both the Mishnah Torah and his letter to Obadiah, a letter that is marked by sincerity. Let us consult an academic source to find out if the Rambam was practicing taqiyya. This is an essay by Daniel Busek of the Institute of Near Eastern Studies, Charleston University in Prague. Polemics in the Age of Religious Persecution, Maimonides' Attitude toward Islam. Busek asks in this essay, at this point, a question presents itself: could Maimonides express his opinion concerning Islam freely, or was he forced to fall back upon concealing or masking his true tenets? Busek answers in the negative in this essay. Now he gives us the obvious fact that Muslim Egyptian society was not tolerant of polemical expressions and was hostile to such. But there was no evidence of government censorship at this time. There was no Inquisition, after all, like the ones found in Europe, where the Talmud was burned and other books were blacklisted. Instead, there were fears of Jewish converts to Islam who would divulge the polemics to the authorities. Busek also quotes the Rambam about this to show that he did not fear for his life, but decided to talk about the things he wanted to anyways, with the belief that conveying the truth overrides personal safety. Take adequate precautions, lest its contents be divulged by an evil person and mishap overtakes us. When I began writing this letter, I had some misgivings about it, but they were overruled by my conviction that the public welfare takes precedence over one. In his famous epistle to the Yemenite Jewish community, Maimonides refers to the Prophet Muhammad as a madman, meshugana. The word is also majnun in Arabic, hardly a word someone would use if they were worried about their own life. Now here is Rambam's letter to Obadiah, a Muslim convert to Judaism, who was told by his rabbis that Islam was idolatry. Asher Meza does not quote the letter, but mentions it in passing. I don't understand why he didn't quote the letter, even if it was to refute it, because he alleges that the Rambam was wrong after all. Muslims are not idolaters at all. It has already been cut from their mouth and heart, and they are totally and properly committed to one God without flaw.
Actually, in the same parak, he states that even denying prophecy is a form of Avodah Zarah, which is the same point brought down by the Brisker Rav, which is actually what one would have to embrace if one embraced Islam. Now,
This is a bad reading of a text that is crystal clear. Rambam was making a general statement about revelation from God, here termed prophecy. Here, the Rambam is talking about what constitutes disbelief. In this case, it is denying that God sends revelation or prophecy to mankind. Rambam was not referring here to denying a particular revelation, like the Torah, but to the denial of all revelation. Of course, Rambam believed that denial of the Torah was a form of heresy, or kafirah, as he stated elsewhere. Here is a quote from Rabbi Israel Lipschutz in his commentary on the Mishnah. Lipschutz speaks about Torah in terms of revelation, in general, as something that God gives to all mankind. This would be consistent with Rambam's views on this subject.